This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
I mean, you can see right now without LeBron.
You're listening to TGI Sports Talk with your host Keith Angle on Northeast Streaming Sports.
Hey guys, Keith Angle for TGI Sports Talk right here on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network. Trying to get the board to operate correctly this morning. Still adjusting to being back on dry land. I hope you guys enjoyed the last few weeks while I was away on vacation the last couple Fridays. I can tell you that I had a wonderful time. I hope you did. We had some good guests that we had recorded interviews for. I want to thank Rennie LaRue, founder and executive director of the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, also the New York State Basketball and now the Hockey Hall of Fame. But baseball was our focus. Got great reception to that, guys. And they do have an induction dinner coming up here in November. So please check that out. I'll get the date and the information and get it posted to the TGI Sports Talk page. Also, my thanks to Kevin Kernan, one of our show's the good friend of the show. We talked a lot about the Yankees and the Mets travails and where they might be going. And again, always great reception for good morning, Dave Guyette. Good to see you this morning. So today we have no guest because being on the high seas is not terribly conducive to getting guests. So coming up in the coming weeks, we've got some good stuff coming up. Next week, we're going to have Hank Gola from the New York Daily News. We're going to talk the NFL season to date. We'll be about at the halfway point there. There is no exact halfway point anymore when you have 17 games, but we'll talk about that. And then we're going to have some interesting guests coming up. We're going to have some of the admins of some of the groups that I share to coming on. We'll have more information about that soon. Plus, we've got some college football players. I've got a couple pro football players, and as always, the baseball players are really, really receptive to coming on. So we got some good stuff coming up in the coming months, and we'll be talking about that as we go forward. Don't forget our college football huddle show on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I have a lot of fun doing that show. I do that show with Mark Mancini for part of it. We have some special guests like Larry Sorensen and whatnot, and also our Sunday Stream of Consciousness, our weekly vlog. So join it all. You guys, share the show. Share the show to your friends. Invite your friends to the TGI Sports Talk page. If you don't know how to do that, I'll be happy to show you. It's simple. Go to the top, look for the three dots, click on it, and you'll see invite friends. So invite all your friends. We want to grow this nation. I want to get to 2,000 by the end of the year. That'd be awesome. 2,000 followers. We've really done a lot in a year. Had a lot of fun. Today we're going to talk NBA. We'll focus mostly on the Knicks and the Nets. I hope Carlos is going to be with us today. Dave Gatta will bring this up, even though we're talking about the NBA today. Local product here, Ian Anderson from Shenandoah High, number one draft pick of the Braves a few years back, will be starting tonight in the World Series. Put a little pressure on Dave Guyette that Davis promised. We're going to hope Dave can get Ian on our show here sometime this winter during the offseason. That would be a lot of fun. But back to the NBA. We're going to do a little preview. And I'm just going to kind of jump around a lot. I'm going to go by your comments, with your comments if you're here. Hopefully Carlos will be in with us today because I know Carlos is certainly an avid NBA follower and certainly a Knicks follower and not a Tom Thibodeau fan. But we'll talk about all of that coming up. You know, the NBA has started. The Knicks are off to a hot start, but they need to kind of change the way. They can't be finishing games like they finished them last night. And this is what the Knicks have done historically, and they have to get away from that. And the Nets are not off to as good a start. They've had some injury issues. We got the Kyrie thing to talk about, and gosh, who knows what's going to go on with them. But let's start, quickly with the Eastern Conference, right? We still got in the East, we still have pretty much the same contenders probably as we had last year. We got the Nets a year older, a lot of the same guys back. We'll talk about some of the additions when we talk about them specifically. Change my banner here. And LaMarcus Aldridge is coming back. It did come back after retiring during the season last year, which is a good thing for the Nets, of course. His veteran presence in the middle will help them. He's not going to give them a lot of minutes, but he'll give them a great leadership potential. You got the defending champion Milwaukee Bucks, who I love. I just love the way they play the game. I enjoyed the last year's NBA Finals more than I've enjoyed the finals in a long, long time. Paid more attention to them. The Suns and Bucks played a fun brand of basketball. And the Bucks, I think, they've got a big star, obviously, in Gianni. But look at that team is well put together with Middleton and Holiday joining him. And this team is primed to repeat potentially, or at least be in a position to contend to do so. The Miami Heat, I expect to be greatly improved this year. I'm looking at some of the contenders in the East at the moment. We'll dive back into these a little bit deeper. Some of them. We're going to talk mostly Knicks and Nets once we get past this, though. The Hawks last year showed that they are an explosive young team. I think they could take a step back this year. We will see. But they do shoot the ball well. They play better defense when it came to the defense, and they're getting deeper as well. The Sixers, I'll tell you, the Sixers have got to fix this Ben Simmons problem. This is going to eat at this team the entire year. I've talked very on the Mac and Jack show anyway, at least last Friday, from the Carnival Magic. That they need to do something with Ben Simmons. And if it's me, if we're in a real world here, right, this guy gets fired for cause. And the NBA and all sports have got to find a way to kind of change the way they approach these guaranteed contracts and whatnot. Players can hold them hostage, not perform up to their capabilities, dog it, not show up to practices, and just be a distraction like Ben Simmons is because he wants to get out of town. And they should accommodate him, number one. Who wants a guy on your team who doesn't want to be there? Number two, if they can't move him, then they ought to be able to get rid of him and fire him for cause and not pay him. Your contract says you need to be playing up to your capabilities. And if you can't and you're not even trying, then you have to do something about that. The Celtics, we're going to see, it's very interesting to see the Celtics really fall backwards last year. They did tweak the roster a bit with Dennis Schroeder coming in, and Josh Richardson, Al Horford, but they have a new coach, Inaima Udoka. Brad Stevens kicked himself upstairs. Danny Ainge is gone. So we're going to see whether the Celtics can turn around their backslide. I'm not sure that they can. I'm really not. Let's see what we got here. Comment. Try to keep up with your guys' comments. I'm hoping we get some. Hey, Brett Cloutier. Brett's a hockey player. I'm not sure how much he's following the NBA this year, but hopefully he is. Good morning to Brett. We should have Brett on someday to talk about the travails of the hockey player, the transient nature of his existence. When he was a hockey player, he's not a transient anymore. It might be fun to do that, actually. I'm going to talk to Brett about that. So put that on your notepad, Brett. Obviously the Knicks are going to take a step forward this year. I think it's interesting. We're going to dive into the Knicks a little deeper in a minute. Gosh, the odd makers in Vegas have got them at like 42 wins over under, 42 and a half wins. That's shocking to me. They won 40 games last year in a shortened season. If they win 40 games this year, the fan base is going to be all over them. Of course, Brett is a Raptors fan. Raptors have taken a step backwards, though, man. What's going on there? I don't see them competing. And again, last year they had to give the Raptors a break. They had to play a lot of their season in Florida due to the pandemic. I don't know that they ever got home. Brett, maybe but I don't think they ever did get home, and they never got things going the way they thought. Kyle Lowry's gone. Toronto's kind of rebuilding a little bit, so I don't see them really being a factor in the East at all. So the teams I've talked about are the teams I think are going to be a factor. As we said, the Nets, the Bucks, the Heat, the Knicks, 76ers if they can straighten things out, maybe the Celtics, and the Hawks. The Hawks are a wild card to me. I don't know if they're as good as they were last year. Well, there's our first prediction of the year. Scotty Barnes will win Rookie of the Year. I can maybe get on board with that. He's a nice player for sure. Let's take a quick look out west before we dive into some teams in general. And again, we'll dive in as deep with some of these teams as you guys want. But I'm going to focus mostly on the Knicks and Nets once we get going here. So anyway, out west, the Lakers again, are listed as a contender, but are they really? Did we see the real Lakers last year? Was this a pandemic thing? I don't know. But, they've added Melo to the team. They've added Westbrook to the team. It doesn't make them better theoretically, but it's only one basketball on that team, guys. And I don't know that Westbrook and LeBron are going to play nice. I'm just not sure. The Jamie Jumpers will take it all. Judy. Oh, I'm not sure who that is. But thank you for weighing in and watching this morning. You're not a Celtics fan, Judy? I mean, you're all over the Red Sox and such. Listen, out west to me, it's still the Jazz and the Suns that are going to be out in front of this thing. I love the Jazz. They folded in the playoffs once again last year, but they didn't play badly. Led by Donovan Mitchell, of course, and Rudy Gobert. I love Quinn Snyder. I think he's a great coach. I said this a lot last year. But the Suns just had it going with Chris Paul really that being his team and taking control of that team, and then Devin Booker obviously stepping up and DeAndre Ayton and all, and a great job of coaching by their head coach Mo Williams. So it was a great job there. You got the Nuggets, who are always in play. Will Jamal Murray bounce back after surgery and be able to play as well as he did before? Will Jokic be in the MVP conversation again? Great player, last year's MVP. I'm putting him, in my top few to compete for that MVP this year. You got the Golden State Warriors are off to a hot start. Klay Thompson's coming back. I think I read in a month or so he'll be able to play. Resume basketball activities. Right, he may not be ready to play. But he will be back before the first half of the season is over, if things are go as according to plan. That'll be the first time they've had him in 2 seasons, and they've been kind of in a holding pattern without him. Steph Curry's done his best to keep that team afloat, but I'm not sure that there's enough there, even with Thompson and Curry, to be able to compete with the Phoenixes and the Utahs of the world. The Mavericks. They always find a way to get it done. They did lose their head coach last year, who I think is a great coach. Whether Jason Kidd can match what he was able to do over his long tenure in Dallas is still remains to be seen. But look at Luka Doncic is a great talent. We'll see whether they can get this together and whether Kristaps Porzingis can actually reach his potential, and whether Kidd can coach and coax, the top performance out of these two really talented kids from Europe and what's a pretty unspectacular supporting cast. Then you got the Clippers, who are hoping Kawhi Leonard will be coming back strongly from surgery, off-season knee surgery. If he can come back, great. If he's done for the season, then Paul George is the guy, and it's kind of mediocrity to me around him. So I think the Clippers are going to take a step back this year. The Trailblazers are always kind of an enigma. There's always a lot of talent there, of course, with Damian Lillard and Larry Nance Jr. They will also have a new head coach this year, and we're going to see, whether this team is ready to take the next step or not. The Grizzlies, I'm not sure. Jay Morant is a great player. He's ready to step up and probably become an all-star this year. But are they ready to take the next step? Don't know. The Pelicans, again, Zion Williamson really wants out. Brandon Ingram has turned into a really good player for them. But there's just too much turnover and too much turmoil there all the time. And I'm not sure that they can really get it together. I'm hoping to get Rex Walter on. And I was hoping to get him on for today's show and talk about the NBA. But Rex is gone. He was an assistant coach with the Pelicans, and he's moved on. He's doing some color commentary in college, I think, now. But we're going to get Rex on the show here in the coming months. He's a good friend of the show as well. The Spurs, Popovich. It's really sad to see that Pop is going to probably go out with a team on a downswing. He's missed the playoffs 2 years in a row, probably for the first time in his career, I'm going to say. We'll see whether they can get it back together. And then you got the Rockets, the Kings, the Timberwolves, and the Thunder, who are probably not going to compete at all. And I'm still got the Eastern Conference banner up, so I'm really with it this morning, aren't I? Let's talk about the Knicks. The Knicks had a great season last year, and unfortunately, or fortunately, jumping from 21 wins to 41 wins is a big jump, especially in a shortened season last year. You would have expected us, and fans probably would have been happy with an increase to 30 or 31, 32. But Popovich, as is his norm, doesn't pace things right. Not that you want to. There's no reason you don't want to try to win a championship every year. But now the expectations have been raised greatly, and this team has got to really pick it up. If they're going to, I shouldn't say pick it up. They're going to have to. What do I want to say? 40 wins, 45 wins in a first round exit in the playoffs is not going to do it for these fans in New York, me being one of them. I expect 50 wins out of this team. They're off to a 4-1 start. Not really happy with you can't turn fourth quarter, 13-point leads, 15-point leads into nail biters at the end of the games. Good teams don't do that. Good teams put the pedal down and they put their foot on that opponent's throat and they win the game by 20 or 30, like the Knicks did the previous game against Philadelphia. That's what they need to do. I mean, there's some new faces on this team, obviously. They've remade this thing on the fly, so how these guys all play together is still remains to be seen. But again, we're off to a 4-1 start, so that's a good sign. Adding Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier to the starting lineup. Also adding who else is here? Quentin Grimes and some young kids to the roster. They're really the only guys that are really playing. Well, Lucas Samanik made the team, and so did Sims, but they're not going to get a lot of playing time under Thibodeau. He does not like to play kids to begin with. So, look at this team is going to be. This is still Julius Randle's team. His scoring's going to be down, which is okay. His minutes may be down, which is okay, because you saw what happened to Randle in the playoffs last year, and that can't happen. He can't run out of gas, and he can't be the only option on offense. And now the Knicks have done a great job of bringing in some pieces that will help take the pressure off him. Evan Fournier will be able to fill up the basket. Kemba Walker's a good offensive point guard. You may see Mitchell Robinson's back from injury, by the way, and starting at center. I hope he is not a distraction because, he wants the basketball. He wants to shoot more. That's not his job. He does not need to score points in his team. He just needs to protect the rim and rebound. That's it. What do you got here? Oh, yeah, we got Brett with a little NHL analogy here. The first rounder Quentin Grimes, who I love Quentin Grimes, by the way. His brother is Tyler Myers, who plays in the NHL and was Rookie of the Year 10 years ago. Excellent. That's a great piece of information, Brett. That's why I like what my people bring to the show. Who's he play for, by the way? I have to admit, I've not gotten into the NHL yet. I got to get Jim Beringer on the show, my Sunday show. We may do an NHL show here in the next coming weeks too, just go through the whole NHL as well. It can't be the next couple of weeks, but we'll do it maybe before October's out. Oh, sorry, November's out. Back to the Knicks. RJ Barrett, don't be surprised. RJ Barrett's probably going to take a step back in points scored, but RJ Barrett's overall game improved a ton last year. He played really good defense, went to the basket better than he had in the past. I shouldn't say that. He does that well anyway. He shot the ball better the second half than he did the first half or his rookie season, played better defense, went to the pounded the board is where I was kind of going here, and rebounded really well. You get that kind of rebounding out of that spot in the lineup, this team's going to be really tough. Now, what I worry about is the Knicks taking a step back defensively. I think they're giving up 108 points a game right now, but Thibodeau's not going to let them, just fall apart on defense for the sake of more offense. Fournier brings more offense. Walker brings more offense. The fact that they can bring Rose off the bench helps them a lot. Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker are a great combination, by the way. Neither one of them is at the point in their career where they can play, 38, 40 minutes a game. Just can't do it. Again, you saw what happened to Derrick Rose in the playoffs along with Julius Randle against the Hawks last year. That can't be how this team goes forward. But I think Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker are in a tremendous combination. Right now, they're combining for about, they're all the minutes at point guard, almost all the minutes. And they're averaging 27 points a game and 7 rebounds or 7 assists. So again, together they make one really good point guard. Two good players. You may see Rose finish out games and Walker not. It was very interesting. Or they could play together. That's the other interesting thing here, right? There's a lot of mix and match combinations that the Knicks can do. With Walker and Rose and Alec Burks off the bench, huge move. The Knicks were able to keep Alec Burks as part of this bench because the bench was a big part of what they did last year. I expect Quickly to still contribute and learn, but he's going to have a chance to learn slower and not be thrown into big game situations as quickly. I hope to see Toppin improve. He's the number 2 point forward. I say point forward because of Julius Randle. It's power forward, but Julius Randle's he's leading the team in assists again. This man is a tremendous player, doesn't get his due. Julius Randle will be in the MVP conversation this year if the Knicks contend in the East. Mark my words. What else? The Knicks center rotation will be important. Mitchell Robinson, again, as I said, has got to stop calling for the basketball, wanting to shoot 3-pointers, and just get under their protect the rim rebound. Knicks have good protection back there with veterans Noel and Ty Gibson. 2 really good players and 2 guys that Thibodeau loves. Don't be surprised, though, if the Knicks, before the trade deadline, use some of this depth that they've got and make a trade. And, they could make a trade for a big man, and we'll see how that plays out. We'll talk about that more as the season goes on. And I think it's the Toronto Raptors who ought to be careful about who comes looking for him. Tyler Myers is now playing for the Vancouver Canucks. What a great place to live. I'd love to live in Vancouver. Probably an awesome place to be. So I see the Knicks overall being a much more dynamic offensive team, many more options than they had last year. You saw what happened again, not to repeat myself, when the Hawks could collapse on Randall and get him off his spot, he had some problems last year. Now, if the Knicks can space out the floor better, and I think they can now with the addition of Walker, and Fournier again is a guy who can shoot the ball from the outside better than Barrett. Barrett's really a small forward now. Burks will back him up. You'll see Toppin get mixed into the small forward and the power forward positions. And I think he's going to take a step forward this year. I really do. And I think the Knicks, again, that the fans are not going to stand for I don't want to say mediocrity because they had a really good year last year, but they're not going to stand for a first-round playoff loss. Fans were very happy, disappointed. Being a Knicks fan, I was disappointed when they went out in the first round. I was expecting them to beat the Hawks. But realistically, last season was a really, really good season. We won't be happy with that again. We're not going to be happy. I don't care if they win 60 games in a regular season, which they won't. They've got to go deep in the playoffs for the fan base to continue to be on board. I got guys that aren't on board now. Carlos, I wish Carlos was here because Carlos would carry this whole conversation because he hates Tom Thibodeau, who's only one of the best coaches the Knicks have had in recent history. He's a great coach. Did great things in Chicago until guys broke down, until Derrick Rose tore up his knee and guys got old. Did a good job in Toronto until they stopped listening to him. Now that falls on the coach. But this Knicks team, they're still a piece away, right? And I don't know who that piece is. I don't know if it's Damian Lillard. I really don't know. Because I like where the point guard situation is now. I mean, you can play Rose and Walker and Lillard in a point guard and shooting guard. What's Brett sending me over here? I don't know if I can get to it, Brett. Hold on. Cloutier. Look at that. I missed this story. So Grimes and his brother Myers are the first brother tandem in the NBA and the NHL. That's a cool story. Interesting story. Thanks for sharing that, Brett. Maybe I'll make you my hockey guy. That would make my man Jim Beringer sad. I can't do that. So, where was I? So the Knicks. What do I predict for the Knicks? I really think, let's take a look at the divisions here. I'm going to go out on a limb here. I don't know if it's that far out on a limb with the problems the Sixers have with Ben Simmons and whatnot. I think the Knicks are going to win this Eastern Conference. I will predict now, with the Nets getting a year older, with all the and we're going to talk about the Nets in a second. I think the Knicks are going to win the the Atlantic Conference, not the Eastern Conference. I predict they're going to win the Atlantic Division over the Nets and the Sixers because there's just too many outside issues there. Stay away from hockey. It's toxic now. Well, all right. I haven't really jumped into the season. It's hard for me, Brett, and anybody else who's wondering about hockey and why we haven't touched on it yet on any of my shows. It's hard for me to get in the NBA. This is my first foray into the NBA this year. There's too much going on. I got the World Series going on. We've been in the middle of playoffs for a month. We're knee deep in college football, which I love. We're knee deep in the NFL. I just can't get too excited yet about, especially hockey, which I will, I promise you, and the NBA. But as soon as college football starts to wind down in another, 4 or 5 weeks, you get to the first of the year, I get more involved in the NBA and hockey, and we will, I promise you. All right, let's move to the soap opera that is the Brooklyn Nets. Somehow the Nets, with only having Harden, Durant, and Irving together for maybe, I don't even know, 11 games or something, 15 games all last year during the regular season, they managed to be at the top of the Eastern Conference with the Philadelphia 76ers. They bring back that core, and they add some bodies, obviously. They added, as I said, LaMarcus Aldridge came back this year. They brought in Javon Carter to back up at point guard. They traded DeAndre Jordan, which isn't a big loss, for some depth at small forward and center. And some of these guys I got to get, I just can't pronounce some of these guys' names. That's my bad. But, I can maybe say, I just took me, how long did it take me to say Cloutier? Oh, no, Rick, Brett, that one I know about. The Blackhawks scandal I certainly know about. I haven't missed that. I'm just talking about hockey in general. That story you can't miss, right? It's all over the news. Back to the Nets. Look, Harden's not healthy. Durant has trouble staying healthy. I've said before, Kevin Durant, when he's healthy, is the best player in the NBA. He's better than LeBron. He's better than Steph Curry. He's probably better than Giannis. Overall, those are all great players. Doesn't mean they aren't good players. But Kevin Durant does more for his team, I think, than any one of those guys. And after the playoffs last year, I'll put Giannis ahead of him, to be honest with you. But Harden hasn't been able to stay healthy. And then you got the whole Kyrie Irving thing. And here I'm going to go. I think as long as Kyrie Irving's on this team, they're going to have this drama following around. It's always something with Kyrie. The earth is flat. I was all upset about the January 6th storming the Capitol, and I had to take 5 days off for mental health break. And then it was this. I needed 5 days off for mental health. Good morning to Mr. Bob Engel, and probably my stepmom, Jeanette. Good morning. No guest today, as you can see. It's just me rambling on about the NBA. And now my Kyrie Irving tirade, which I was going to do a vlog on while I was on the Carnival Magic. I'm going to be looking to get sponsorship money from Carnival, by the way. Or they'll get me kicked off Facebook for saying their name on my show. Who knows? Kyrie Irving, again, it's always something. I got to have mental health days. Now the team has told him he can't play because of the COVID vaccinations. Look, this isn't a political conversation, so don't take it as such. I'm not for government overreach. I'm not for the government saying you have to get shots. If you don't want to get a shot and you got a good reason, a medical reason, whatever, don't get a shot. And I'm not necessarily saying the government should be able to tell you, but your employer can tell you pretty much anything they want. And you comply. Now, the Nets have decided that they're going to follow New York City's mandate that everybody needs to be vaccinated if they're going to be out in the public. You can't go to ball games. You can't go to restaurants. You can't go anywhere unless you're vaccinated. Now, that's the city's mandate. I'm not saying I am for the government being that involved in my life. It's a personal decision whether you get a shot or not. If you'd rather take a chance on getting COVID than getting a shot because you worry about what's going to happen to you 10 years from now, you don't know what's in all the other drugs that they give you either, by the way, just so that excuse to me is kind of weak. I don't get it. But to sticking to Kyrie, if you watched his press conference here 2 weeks ago, it was rambling. He did everything. He did everything except come out and say directly, I'm not getting a shot because they told me I have to. He didn't say anything. He didn't give a solid reason other than you're telling me I have to, so I'm not going to. I firmly believe that if the NBA or New York City or New York State or the U.S. government or the Nets themselves had said, I don't want any of our players vaccinated. Not going to allow people with vaccinations because it's going to put their health at risk. And Kyrie would have said, I want the shot. Because he's Kyrie and he just needs to be contrary. Stupid, right? Excellent point. Shatner confirmed that if it's good enough for William Shatner, it's good enough for me. The earth is round. I've said this a bunch of times. I wish Kyrie or any of you other flat earthers, if there's flat earthers watching today, I apologize. I don't mean to demean you. I guess I do mean to demean you. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being disingenuous saying I don't mean to demean you, because if you think the earth is flat, you're crazy. And come see me. We will get in a car. We will drive as far as you want in one direction. And I guarantee you we aren't going to fall off the face of the earth. I'll pay for the gas. Oh, God. Great call, though, Brett. Yes, the earth is round. And here we are talking about the NBA and whether the earth is round or flat. I love this. A lot of fun for me. Well, yeah, to enter Buffalo Bills games, you must be vaccinated. And they're not enforcing players to get vaccinated. So that's not right. Well, I mean, there's no government mandate in New York State that you have to get a shot. But I don't know. I mean, again, I'm not going to talk about the vaccination thing as a whole. I'm talking about it as it applies to Kyrie Irving right now, really. You know, what's right or wrong with the vaccinations? Again, I don't think the government should tell you what to do. But your employer can. If my employer said, and I am vaccinated, by the way, if my employer said, you know, to stay employed with this company and return to the office, if we should do so at some point in the near future, you need to be vaccinated, and I do need you in the office at some point, so you get vaccinated. Well, I'd have to get vaccinated or look for a new job. And that's what Kyrie Irving should do. Look for a new job. All right, back to the Nets. Let's assume Kyrie doesn't play all year. I don't think Harden and Kevin Durant are going to be enough to carry this team to the top of the Atlantic Division or the Eastern Conference for sure. Neither one's going to play enough games. And look at the people around them. Javon Carter is a nice complementary player. Can't carry a team. Joe Harris, nice complementary player. Can't carry a team. Bruce Brown, nice complementary player. Can't carry a team. You got a theme here? Blake Griffin. Playing center, by the way. You got Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. Both great players at one point in their careers. They're on the downside of their careers, and Blake Griffin is not a natural center. Paul Millsap. Nice back. You know, these guys are good enough, if they had that big three, to carry this team. Brett's sending me messages on our work thing. This is what happens. It's like my Sunday stream of consciousness, right, Brett? I mean, it happens every time I talk about the NBA. I got to talk about whether the earth is round or not, because I can't talk about the NBA without talking about Kyrie Irving. So you Nets fans, I think you're in for a long year. I think Steve Nash did a great job last year coaching this team. People demeaned him. They said, "Oh, it was Durant, it was Harden, it was the coaches were running, the players were running the team." But those players hardly played, at least not together. He did a tremendous job with all the nonsense going around that team with injuries, which is not necessarily nonsense. It's just part of the NBA experience, right? The Kyrie nonsense. I think Steve Nash did a great job of managing the personalities on that team, which is a big part of being a coach in the NBA or a coach anywhere. It's not just X's and O's. A lot of these guys know X's and O's and fail because they can't manage personalities. And I think Steve Nash did a great job last year, but Steve Nash is going to have to do even a better job this year because he's got a mess on his hands in my mind. Him and Doc Rivers both. Change my banner again. I need a producer on this show. Somebody's got to help me out. Apparently, I don't have a. Oh, there we go. Brooklyn Nets. I'm going to change it again in a second anyway. The Nets and the Sixers are going to have a hard time in that Atlantic. That's why I think the Knicks will sneak in and win that division because there's just too much craziness going on around the rest of that division. The Sixers. The Raptors, I don't think, are ready to compete again. Brett, you can tell me you think I'm wrong. I mean, let's take a look at the Raptors depth chart real quick. Fred VanVleet, nice player. Can't carry a team. Gary Trent Jr., nice player. Can't carry a team. Where's the big number one guy there? Where's the guy that's going to carry them in a big moment? I don't see anybody. I mean, it's a nice, deep team, and I think, you know, they'll probably make the playoffs. That'd be my guess. But I don't see them competing, and I think the Celtics will finish last. Let's move back on. We're going to move back to the rest of the Eastern Conference here. We'll talk some more. We only got 19 minutes left anyway, so let's talk about the rest of the conference a bit. The Bulls are playing really well, but are they going to stay up there? That Central's for the Bucks to win or lose. They're still good. They're the defending champion. They'll probably be the number one team in the East. So I see the Knicks competing for that number 2 spot with probably the Heat, Philadelphia, and the Nets. And if the Nets to me may end up, you know, finishing like 5th or 6th in this conference, to be honest with you. That's just my estimation. I don't think anybody from the Central other than the Bucks are really going to make any noise if they should make the playoffs. The Bulls are improved for sure, but again, the Cavaliers, the Pacers, Pistons, not going to happen. So what's going to happen in the East when it comes to the playoffs? I think you legitimate. This is a year the Knicks might. I'm going to sound crazy when I say this. I know that, and I swear it's not a homer. At least not entirely a homer situation. But the Knicks are in a position this year to get to the conference finals. I do not think they can get past the Bucks. I do think they can get to the conference finals because of the dysfunction of the 76ers and the Nets. So I really see Miami and the Knicks pushing the Bucks in the East. And we'll see what happens with that. Out West, you know, Northwest Division is going to be Utah's, I would think. Denver should push them a bit. Portland, you never know. But I think the Timberwolves and the Oklahoma City are just a disaster waiting to happen. In the Pacific, everybody's going to love the Lakers. I think the Lakers are still going to struggle. I think the Lakers will be, you know, in the bottom half of the playoff rung there. So, you know, finishing 4, 5, 6. I think Utah finishes ahead of them. I think Phoenix finishes ahead of them, although they're off to a slow start. I think it's possible the Warriors finish ahead of them. Sorry, I got a comment. I can't get to my comments. I'm back out west now. Hold on. Let me change my damn banner. Oh my God. I'm out west. I'm having a hard time today. What do you got? Knicks, Bucks, and Eastern Finals. You're right. Too much craziness on the other teams. Well, there's somebody agreeing with me. Can't believe it. Let's go Cavs from Hayati. I don't know if I'm saying your Hayati. Tell me how to say your name. I don't know. Spell it for me phonetically or something. But we got a Cavs fan here. I don't think the Cavs are ready, but But I appreciate you being here. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you commenting. Man, my internet connection does not look good today. I hope everything's coming through all right. Just looking at my little connection up here. It's not as strong as it ought to be. Fairly good. It's usually very strong. Anyway, back to the West. So we talked about Pacific. I don't see the Kings competing. I don't see the Clippers competing actually at all either. And then in the Midwest, that one's going to be kind of up in the that one's up for grabs. The Mavs are probably the best team in that division. Memphis could surprise, I suppose. New Orleans is starting over again, and Zion Williamson's going to want out. The Suns are nowhere, and then you got the Spurs, and their best thing they got going for them is Coach Popovich, and they're off to a horrible start. So I don't see them competing. So again, I see the Western Conference. Laker fans, I'm sorry, I just don't think they're going to be in the conference finals. I really think you're going to see a repeat. I think the Suns might just take a step back. I think the Jazz and the Warriors are going to play in the conference championship this year, because I think the Warriors, as I started to say a minute ago. What do you got here? It's Zach. Zach might be watching us on YouTube. Great, too. I don't know. We're going to see about the Cavs, buddy. Buddy. I'll have to call you buddy, and I don't mean that in a bad way. God, the political correctness police are going to be all over me again. Western Conference, I see the Jazz coming out of that, beating the Warriors in the conference finals. So that brings us to our NBA final predictions. It's going to be the Bucks and the Jazz, and I see the Bucks repeating. That's my pick right now. The Bucks repeat and win again. Giannis is so good. His surrounding cast, by the way, is pretty much intact from where it was last year. Drew Holiday, who really came into his own in the playoffs last year. Middleton, who really came into his own as they headed through. This is a team whose coach was ready to get fired when we entered the playoffs, and they just put it all together. Brook Lopez overlooked it at that center position. He can rebound and he can shoot the three. So I think, overall, I think that it's going to be the Bucks. The Bucks are just too deep, too good. They play the game so well. George Hill's coming off the bench for this team now. Bobby Portis, very underrated player. The kind of player that every NBA team needs is a Bobby Portis. He does all the dirty work. Knicks need a Bobby Portis. Burks might be kind of that guy, but I don't think he does that job to the efficiency that Bobby Portis does it. I love him. Well, he's the kind of guy every team needs, as I said. Every good team has one of these guys. Every team that wins has one of these guys for sure. What else? Who's going to be the most improved team? Let's go down a couple of different little categories. Who's going to be the most improved team in the East? I think the Knicks. The Knicks and the Heat will be the most improved teams in the Eastern Conference. We haven't talked much about the Heat, but the Heat have got some really good players that we don't talk a lot about. Kyle Lowry, who came in mid-season. Jimmy Butler is still one of the better players in the NBA. PJ Tucker is a nice player, obviously. Adebo, I can never say his name either. The Knicks were after him last year. Adebo. How about that? Adebo. Question for them is going to be whether they're deep enough. Eric Spoelstra is a great coach. If this team is deep enough, they're going to compete. And I think the Knicks and the Heat will be the most improved teams in the East. Out West, the Warriors will be the most improved team in the West, I think, easily. But with Klay Thompson coming back and hopefully getting himself back to the player he was, by the time the season is at the important stages next after the first of the year, February, March, getting himself ready for the playoffs. This team will be a dangerous team to play, as I said, in the playoffs. That's just my opinion, of course. And I think the Dallas Mavericks will be greatly improved as well. Those are my two most improved teams out west. Long shots in both conferences. Hey, the Knicks. The Knicks are a long shot when you look at the major predictors talking about the Sixers and the Nets and the Bucks. So I'm going to take a long shot in the East. It's going to be the Knicks. And a long shot in the West, that'd be the Warriors in my mind. So I've already kind of touched on those. Biggest disappointments, most likely to disappoint. The Brooklyn Nets in the East. And quite possibly the 76ers. But I think Doc Rivers will keep that team afloat. They'll be competitive and still have a pretty good playoff seed. Out West, the Lakers most likely to disappoint again. And maybe the Phoenix Suns. Don't know if the Suns have done enough to keep that team at the top of the standings where they were last year. And remember, we're playing a full 82-game season. We're playing with fans in the stands, full bore. So we'll see what happens. So they're the most likely to disappoint. What else? I got my division winners for you. I got my players. Conference. I told you about my winner. Miami. Milwaukee's going to repeat. We know that. And as far as the MVP talk, I know that Brett threw somebody out there. I'm gonna say that Giannis will be the MVP this year and carry the Miami to that second consecutive championship. Most improved player in the league. That's a tough one. But I'm going to go with Murray from Memphis. It's going to be my most improved. Rookie of the year, I really don't know. You guys can throw out any names. It's always a crapshoot who's going to be the rookie of the year, and I don't have a pick for that. Coach of the year, I will predict right here and right now. Wish Carlos was here. Coach Thibodeau will be the. Looks like I did not connect the Zodiac today, by the way. Coach Tom Thibodeau will win back-to-back Coach of the Year awards when he gets the Knicks to the Eastern Conference Finals. And who knows? Maybe shocks the world and beats the Bucks. I don't think it'll happen, but I'd love to see it happen. I wanted to see something here. The other guy that I think can possibly, Quinn Snyder could also be up there for Coach of the Year. And Mike Budenholzer, by the way, is a guy who was in trouble last year with the Bucks. Went from getting fired to signing a big extension. If the Bucks repeat, you may see him in that Coach of the Year race as well. Unfortunately, the guys that win don't often, unless they come from nowhere, they don't often get the award. Dave, who do I think wins it all in the NBA? As I said here a minute ago, the Milwaukee Bucks will repeat and win the NBA championship again. I just think I think the way they play is the way the NBA should be. Look, everybody should be looking to play the way the Bucks played last year. You saw some great defense out of that team and some great offense. Defense gets lost, but there are still teams playing defense in the NBA today. And the ones that do it and do it in the big spots like the Bucks did against the Suns are the ones that win. And the Bucks they're a well-coached team. They brought back their core. They added a couple pieces, and they got that guy to do the dirty work in Bobby Portis, as I said. I think they're just too good, too deep not to win it all. So that's it, guys. Kind of my quick run through the NBA outlook today. Sorry we didn't have a guest on with us today, but we will next week. We'll have Hank Gola, and we'll be reviewing the first half of the NFL season. So we'll have that to look forward to. We'll also have some guests coming up soon to talk about. We're going to have some guys that allow us to share these shows to the groups on Facebook. Some guys who run some very successful groups we're going to try to get on here soon. I've got some people to talk about sports training and why baseball players and even football players, why they have the injuries that they have today that they didn't have years ago, and the way they're training as opposed to the way they were trained in the past. We're going to talk about the ABA. A lot of you guys, I don't know how old you are. If you don't remember the American Basketball Association, it was a lot of fun. And we're going to have a show dedicated to the ABA coming up here in a few weeks. That's going to be a lot of fun for me. It was a strange time in professional basketball back in the 70s. So anyway, that's today's show, guys. I'm going to be back Sunday with my live stream of consciousness show where we'll talk about the World Series. And where we stand there, we got Game 3 tonight. Ian Anderson pitching, as Dave Guyette said, local product from Shenandoah, New York, Shenandoah High School in Clifton Park, New York. And I like the Astros, by the way. You know, I love Dusty Baker, and I think Dusty Baker, the only thing keeping Dusty Baker out of the Hall of Fame will be winning a World Series. He's one of the best managers in the history of baseball. He's turned around more franchises than anybody I can think of. Missing that World Series ring. I'd like to see Dusty get it. I know everybody hates the Astros. I don't. Astros play a really good brand of baseball, so watch them tonight. We'll talk about that on Sunday. We'll talk about the college football weekend, some big games coming up with Michigan State, Ohio State, and Penn State. A lot of things are going to start taking shape in the playoff situation. We'll talk about the NFL and all the big games from last week and the big games coming up this week. We'll talk about the Patriots and Chargers. You can bet on that. And that'll be that. So anyway, hope you guys have a great Friday. I may be back later with a weekly vlog. I haven't decided yet what I want to rant about. I already did a Kyrie rant. Can't really do that again. But Keith Engel, TGI Sports Talk, right here in Northeast Streaming Sports Network. I'll see you soon. I'll be on with Mac and Jack here in about 5 minutes. You guys have a great weekend. See you Sunday morning. Keith Engel, out.
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.